So one of the most important things in ensuring that your built car is running properly is making sure that your turbo and your wastegate are functioning normally. A lot of times you have to understand at what PSI your wastegate is going to open and close. There are a lot of tools out there that you can purchase. To be honest, a lot of them are overpriced because they're really simple to make. So today I'm going to show you guys how to make a very simple tool to check what PSI your wastegate is opening and closing, and if you need to adjust it. So first things first, I'm going to explain to you going backwards just so you have a better understanding. What you're looking at right now is my wastegate. Now these come internally or externally. On my case, in this 97 850R from Volvo, it is internal wastegate, which means it is attached to the turbo itself. So as you can see, there is a silicone or a vacuum line, the blue line that's coming off of it. That is where we are going to attach our tool. So working our way back now. As I said, this piece will be attached to the turbo wastegate. Now what we are trying to do basically is to fill it with air, pump it with air, understanding how much PSI we're pumping it with air, and then we can make our measurements. So you will first need some kind of silicone or vacuum line. Now, because we have to put the gauge in the middle to understand what those numbers are, we have to buy a T. And in my case, what I found was just a 1/4 inch barb T, a plastic one that I got from a hardware store. Now, additionally, you need another silicone line right here. You will need a adapter to hook the gauge to. And so this one, it was just from Ace Hardware. It's a 1/4 inch barb adapter. You screw it into this gauge. Now this gauge is the important piece that I had a little trouble finding. A lot of times you will find that the gauge that you can find locally, they're going to be somewhere like from 0 to maybe 100 or 120, 150, 200, and that's not going to help you. You need something with a small enough scale so that you can see the 1, 2, 3 PSI increments, because in my case I'm looking for anywhere between 5 to 7 PSI, and when the gauge is running from 0 to 200, it's going to be extremely difficult to see those fine-tuning increments. So it's better if you find a 0 to 10 or a 0 to 15. In my case, the only thing I could find locally was a 0 to 30, so that's what I picked up. And as you can see, it's from Campbell, pressure gauge, 30 PSI, 1/4 inch, 2 inch diameter. So I have that hooked up with some tape, some thread tape, some Teflon tape to make sure it's a tight seal, connected to this fitting, which connects into this hose, into the T fitting. All right, so now we have a way to measure the air that's going through. So now how do we pump in the air? Here there are several ways you can do it. A lot of people suggest getting like a hand tool, looks like a gun that you can pump in the air. In my case, I couldn't find that anywhere locally. Some people suggest using those bulbs, the medical bulbs. They look like little eggs, you know, especially if you've ever gotten your blood pressure taken, that's what they use. Psst, psst, psst. And so you can use that as well. There's many different things that you can use. Basically the idea is that you just want something to pump in air. So what I did, I found a bike pump. These you can find them locally from, you know, about $10. In my case, I got the one that's a little bit more. It's $15 because it has a gauge. I don't need this gauge for this application, but I will be using this for my bike, so I might as well just, you know, get the nicer one. But regardless, I'm going to be using this to attach to this to pump air 5 to 7 PSI into my wastegate to make sure that it's moving. The tricky thing is, how can you get this to attach to this line? Well, what I did was simply just take an old bicycle tire. I ripped I believe it's called, this is the Schrader valve. I ripped the Schrader valve off the tire and I just stuck it into this silicone line and we're good to go. So now I can go ahead and attach it and I can start pumping the air. And that's pretty much it. All in all, this should cost you about 20 bucks. And I think it's a really important piece to have in diagnosing your vehicle if it's turbocharged. Alright, so now we have a clear view of the wastegate arm, and once I start pumping this up with some PSI, we'll be able to see exactly when it's going to start opening. Even though we're only talking about small amounts of PSI, I went ahead and put a good old zip tie on there just to make sure that we're being honest. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 7.5, 8. Alright, we're going to do it one more time just so we can have a closer and a better picture of when exactly the wastegate starts moving. So once again, we're at 0 PSI. There's 2. There's 5.5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. 11. 12. 13, 14, 15, 16.5, 17, 18.